Here.
Schatzinger.
Here.
Reamer.
Here.
Alex. Bernard.
Here.
Batsky.
Here.
Sorensen.
Here.
Split.
Here.
We have a quorum.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we ask your spirit of discernment to be upon us as we reflect on the moment, the near future, the middle future, the long future. Help us to see and think through the perspectives of all the constituents in the community that are represented by all of the people here serving. Give them the wisdom and the insight to make wise decisions, to hear all the different voices, to discern, to ponder, and to choose wisely. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda as written.
A second. Moved by Steve, second by Jonathan. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving tonight's agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. No one signed up for public comment, so we'll move right on to accepting informal reports from standing committees and staff. Is there a motion to accept reports as published?
Motion to accept as published.
I'll second.
Moved by John, seconded by Ellen. Any discussion?
Number 3, Parks and Rec minutes. A question on the county parcel trailhead. And where's that at and how's that going to involve the city?
Yet to be determined. It is a parcel of land that was an in-rem property at Fond du Lac County on the corner of kind of Berlin Road, Cass Street, and North Union.
Okay.
And I'll just make note that the financial report, due to a billing calculation error, we do not have $185 million.
Oh,
So that's unfortunate. But, we did have a correction. It was on your table, so apologize for that. But unfortunately, we don't have that.
Yeah.
Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of accepting the informal reports from standing committees and staff say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved. Next item is the consent calendar. This has common council minutes from March 12th and March 25th. Is there a motion to approve as published?
I'll make a motion to approve as published.
second.
Moved by Jonathan, seconded by John. Any discussion on the consent calendar? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the consent calendar as published, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. I have a proclamation this evening for Arbor Day. Whereas the legislature of the state has adopted an act designating Arbor Day, and by that act has designated April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the state of Wisconsin. And whereas it is the purpose of the designation of this day throughout the nation to encourage the planting of shade and forest trees, to encourage the harvesting of our forest crops by approved conservation methods, and to encourage the protection of our forests from the scourge of devastating fires, insects, and disease that destroy the beauty and usefulness of our woodlands as well as their wildlife. And whereas the city of Ripon has been designated a Tree City USA for a total of 25 years, and whereas through the cooperation of all residents of the city of Ripon, the beneficial effects of forest tree planting proper conservation practices in harvesting timber and protection from the natural enemies of the forest can be materially increased, and we can pass on an enduring heritage of a vital natural resource to succeeding generations. Now therefore, I, Theodore Grant, Mayor of the City of Ripon, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the City of Ripon. The City of Ripon urges everyone able to do so to observe this day by planting of one or more trees. The City of Ripon also encourages residents to participate in the Parks and Recreation Department's Arbor Day activities in partnership with the Ripon Area School District and the Ripon Senior Activity Center on April 19th, 2024. Proclaimed this 9th day of April 2024. Could I get a motion to approve the
I
proclamation?
move that we accept the mayoral proclamation designating April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the City of Ripon.
I'll second that.
Been moved by Ellen, seconded by Doug. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving this proclamation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Thank you very much. All right, moving into our first agenda item is to approve a beverage license requested by El Charro LLC for 120 East Fond du Lac Street for the period ending June 30th, 2024 for fermented malt beverages and intoxicating liquor. Ellen?
I move that we approve the alcohol beverage license requested by El Charro for the period through June 30th, 2024 for fermented malt beverages and intoxicating.
And I would ask that you make this conditional on a lease being signed and submitted to the city.
Okey-dokey.
Please, evidence of a leasehold or ownership interest.
Okay. Got that?
And Benny with El Charro is actually in attendance as well.
Okay.
So if anybody has questions for him, he's here.
And is there a second to this motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, and do we have any questions for the future owner?
Can we invite him to come up and say if you
Come on up.
would like to perhaps introduce yourself and just say.
My real name is not Benny. My name is Gelasio Pascual.
Here, come up here.
Sorry.
No, you're good. That's okay. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, my real name is not Benny. I mean, a lot of people know me by Benny because a lot of people can pronounce my real name. Okay, my real name is Gelasio Pascual, and I'm the owner for the Mexican restaurant El Charro Mexican Grill in Berlin, and we tried to come in Ripon too. So that's why we came to ask her to apply for the liquor license, and if you guys okay with that, I don't have nothing question to ask. Yeah, if you guys have any question to ask me, if I can answer, I will do.
Okay. Did anyone have any questions for Benny?
Okay.
No, just want to say it. We're grateful you're here.
No,
So,
but
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the alcohol beverage license request by El Charro LLC, conditional upon proof of a lease or purchase of property, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Thank you very much. All right, next item up is a report from the Ripon Chamber regarding the room tax allocation. If you'd like to step forward.
Hi everyone, great to see you. It's been a year since I've been up here to make this report, so it's gone by quickly. But yeah, so there's a lot going on in Ripon, and we just continue to learn and evolve our strategies for really leveraging all that makes Ripon unique and special. We want to bring as many people here as we can. We've started a tourism and promotions committee that has representatives from some of our larger attractions that bring people to Ripon, but also the Ripon Chamber and Main Street. And so that's been helpful just to have more collaboration there. Our geofencing data has been very helpful to just track when most people are here and how we can leverage that. One of my goals for this coming busy season is to really look at Green Lake and how we can make sure that every person there in Green Lake is aware of all that Ripon has, because we often talk with the Green Lake Chamber there about how when one community wins, the other one wins, and that we are like sister cities. And so we really want everyone that's visiting, they have such a large tourist and a large budget that's reaching much farther than we could ever reach. And we want to make sure that everyone there, whether they're in an Airbnb or they're coming for an event, that they know Ripon's right next door and that we have an amazing downtown and all kinds of things they can do. Also Ripon College, there is such an uptick in our visitors because of Wilmore, but now the stadium. And so we're meeting with people at the college who are in charge of their summer conferences and their programming and their stadium, and making sure that we are not missing any opportunities when people are coming to visit Ripon for the first time. The hotel study is very helpful, and so really using that to look closer at our hotel occupancy rates. Our community tours. So we are excited to do historic tours, shopping tours, brewery tours, and so we really think that even Lamer's bus tours are coming during the summer. With the Republican National Convention, there'll be a lot of tours happening with them. Last month, they had a huge conference about how art promotes and drives economic development and tourism, and so we're really paying attention to that and saying, what can we do? How can we keep up with that? And are there some new things that we can add to our public spaces? But yeah, with that, we appreciate you and all that you're doing. We appreciate receiving the portion of room tax that we do. And if you have any questions, I'm here for it.
Working collaboratively with Green Lake. However, a tourism grant for 2023 with $500 going to the Thrasher Opera House, which is beloved, may raise some eyebrows because it wasn't given to a tourism entity here in Ripon.
So that specific event was actually hosted in Ripon. It was off-site of their Thrasher actual location, and so that's what it was scheduled for and advertised as. And so yes, that was definitely a unique application, but it was a unique location where they were doing the concert.
And it was hosted in Ripon.
So the actual plans, the entire time were to host it in Ripon, and then that was during like the heat craze, and so but all of the promotions, everything that they did was Ripon focused. Yeah, but great question. And that's an area where we just keep trying to make that grant available and letting people know. We had a business who didn't know that that was a thing when they're trying to start a new tour. There's this grant available. We have $3,000 every year allocated for it, and this year we gave out just that $500, but we already have a couple applications coming for this current year, so I'm excited about that.
And I have a follow-up question. Are allocated. The city of Ripon writes a check to both Main Street and the Chamber?
No, the current agreement, the Chamber of Commerce serves as the tourism entity and receives 70% of the city's room tax. That then goes to the Chamber, and they, I believe, split it 60-40, so 60%.
You're reporting 60%, you're saying they get 70%?
Yeah, they get 70% of the total. So the city collects anywhere from $100 to $120,000-ish, $130,000. So 70% of that goes to the Chamber. They then take it and split it, from how we understand it, as 60-40 split, 60% Chamber, 40% Main Street.
Is it possible going forward, because the downtown is such a tourism draw, that 2 checks could be cut, a check to each entity?
I think there's a rule about it there being only one entity that can be named officially as the DMO. I'm not sure, but that's my understanding.
We're exploring that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I will add, I mean, it's incredible, the things that the Chamber brings, our events. Anything more, I guess, that you want to say about what you're excited about as far as you look ahead to the upcoming events? I said, by the way, the September Fest takes so much more expenditures over Dickens.
Yeah.
What is it, what is?
Yeah, so I would say that Dickens is primarily focused on charity and like having groups come to raise funds. And so because so much of it is done in-house, the living windows, the parade, there isn't a need to bring, you know, a band or the larger expenses. And so, but we have definite excitement about expanding Dickens of a Christmas this year because we really think it's something very unique that draws people from all over our state and region. And so I hope to see a lot of growth in that this coming year.
My understanding is you're not doing September Fest this year.
That is correct, yes. So our chamber just went through a strategic planning process and looking at what our mission is and what we can actually accomplish with the size staff that we have. And September Fest, as you know, as great as I enjoyed it a lot, our board finds that it does not meet the mission that we're working on. And so the amount of hours, the amount of just staff time is not comparable to the results. And so having more things like targeted tourism and tour groups that people can sign up for may be more beneficial than a more local, you know, day. And so we'll see how that goes. Yeah. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. Just on your list of...
That's with our website.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then for the app, My Community, what is it that you're getting for that $5,000?
So they're the ones that host the app. They're the creators of the app, promote the app so that it can actually be a downloaded, you know, thing that people have. And so that, yeah, right now we are still, you know, eating the whole cost, but we hope that it will go down as time goes on.
And do you happen to know how many registered users you have?
As of right now, I get updated to make sure people know about it. We just got stickers to put in all the downtown businesses. And so I think having a stronger time that we can give to it will have those numbers for sure.
So if the app costs $5,000, how many dollars of man hours?
Yeah, thanks to
All right, and we'll move on to the 2023 room tax report from Ripon Main Street. Greg.
Seems like it takes time for the program to get established. Once it gets established, it starts rolling, and I think that's what we're seeing now. So one of the numbers in the report talks about 75,000 visitors are now coming to Ripon. And it's our relationship with, our partnership with WEDC that we're able to get that information for free. So now that we're able to track things, we've been able to, I think we actually started in 2019 before COVID hit. We're making progress. That doesn't mean that we're, you know, everything is rosy, but the only way that we know if we're doing a decent job with recruiting visitors and tourists and getting customers, it's no longer, you know, a boom November, December, and then a slow January, February. It's pretty much consistent across the board because of the businesses that we've been able to add to the downtown. So diversify. We have a number of retail businesses that are attractive to people coming in from out of town, but we have a healthy number of service businesses so that the downtown is actually more of a lifestyle center, which also supports the residents that are living downtown and moving into the key things is our events continue to increase the participants. I wish we could do a wine walk a month because we would sell them all out, but we can't. We're limited by state statutes. We may not want to do that, you know, helping them sustain their livelihood. But things are going very well, and I'm grateful for that relationship that helps us continue to revitalize the downtown. We're not done. We still got a long way to go. But every year we just ramp it up a notch.
Public safety for those folks. So I appreciate that. I'll be like highlighting it for my grant writing.
And as we go forward, we're able to start doing comparisons. So having a year or two, you know, the days.
Quick question for you on your cost for activities. Nicely broken down. Are most of those self-supporting now?
wouldn't be able to spend, $6,000, $7,000, $9,000, $10,000 a year on things like Christmas in the Village. So when we put the lights up across the street, we didn't hit our goal for the fundraising. It was the concert series that helped for us to do more.
But the profitable events are covering for the ones that aren't quite profiting yet.
Yes.
So most of where the room tax money is going is more for advertising and promotion.
It's brain power. It's just putting things together and networking and making sure that all of the, everything that needs to be taken care of is handled, whether it's meeting with the police chief, meeting with, because we have no idea what's going to happen on an annual basis with rainouts and that kind of stuff.
Oh,
So-
I see.
And for everything, there's, then there's rain insurance and all the kinds of things that we have to put into the whole equation. So going into this,
I hear a lot of good things about Ripon. I work in Fond du Lac, as you know, and people say great things about when they find out I'm from Ripon. And a lot of it is what's happening downtown.
it's fun. It wasn't fun just a few years ago. So.
All right, moving on to purchase of heavy lift equipment for the installation of the new DPW facility. Alan has put
With the report, knowing that we have to write a volume of information to answer any questions, so I tried to provide as much information as I could so that you could review it and develop the questions that you might offer.
that will be planned for the new DPW facility.
Correct.
Which needs to be ordered so it's able to be installed when it's ready to be installed.
We have to make decisions on these 4 pieces of equipment so that we can... Yes, sir.
Question. On the air compressor, how come you didn't go with the rotary air compressors? Because of the expense?
They're quite a bit more costly. We did note when we toured the Fond du Lac County Highway Department, they had I believe two rotary air compressors, and we were very impressed with that until we did the research on the cost.
And they're not willing to...
Expense.
And the one you're recommending will keep up for your needs?
We believe so, yes. What we have researched is that there's an ability to add additional storage for additional volume of...
State system.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And then the lift, obviously it's got all the safety protocol on there, it has the locks and stuff like that, right?
Meets lifts are of the same style that we presently have. The Omer, which is the lesser expensive, is the same manufacturer as we presently have. And the significant notable difference between the two that we received quotes on, measured the lift height of the one that we have right now. The Omer that is spec'd out in this report actually has 6 inches of more lift than we presently have with the one installed. So we're comfortable with the 5 foot.
Thank you.
I was actually just going to make a comment. I didn't know what your preference was 100%, but one of the things that we might be able to consider is actually welling out the floor a little bit so that it gives more room for the actual mechanic.
The design of both of these is that the lift actually sits flush with the floor.
Right.
Inside of a well, and then
I was just commenting that we could, make it, the floor go down further in the center so that the mechanic would get more room height-wise.
the reason we don't want to do that
Okay.
is we want a level floor for, we want that center section of concrete to be lower than the ramps. That'll produce more of a safety and trip hazard when there's not a vehicle in that, utilizing that lift.
Okay.
The runways, and then the elevation difference between the bottom of the tires and the underside of the carriage of this type of equipment that's on there, there's going to be a maximum, I would venture a guess, anywhere from 6'6" in height difference. So I think 5 foot 6 inches will give us plenty of height in which to conduct our operations.
You're obviously the expert on to the county, to look at what they have, I guess, just briefly, not extensively. I mean, obviously my guess is you, again, toured other places, you looked at what your service people that already come. I mean, it sounds like you've stayed with the companies that you've already worked with and that you're comfortable with. I guess, is there anything more you want to share about how you chose what you did? I'm not asking you to go into detail. And then my question, maybe more for the city, would be, can you remind those watching too, and all of us, so it's a little bit different when we go out to bid as a city, when we're looking at bids and what we have to take, whereas here, you can't really always compare exactly, right, because the different brands, so there's an option that professional, that the department can make a selection, right, on, because it's not always apples to apples, because, right, I mean, so that's why, and there's often 2 bids, which I appreciate. As far as the requirements that departments have for going out to bid, is there anything more about kind of the measures we have in place to make sure that we're getting the best equipment for the best prices?
Alan, you want to go first?
If you're bidding something out where you can quantify apples to apples, then you gauge your, in my experience, you gauge then the final decision based upon the contractor or the supplier's ability to perform. And sometimes if the lesser price doesn't have a good reputation as far as performing, then you might select the higher.
But now real quick, I don't mean to interrupt, that's different from what the city can do, isn't it? I mean.
No, so public bidding, the project itself will be publicly bid, right? This acquisition falls under more of our purchasing policy. We did go through a procedure here where Alan and the department issued a request for proposal to get companies to respond to certain base specs of what we may need within the facility to ensure that there is some apples to apples. We don't want somebody specing a smaller piece of equipment than what we need. So there was that base effort done through engagement with contractors or providers to then put together this list. So we've met the standards that we would have for acquiring this. This stuff comes before the big bid for the totality of the project, which is a public construction, which requires bidding and tons of a lot more different effort. So this is just an initial effort. It's a lot of money. It requires council approval, and we have to make these decisions to move on to the next step of bidding the bigger project.
So in this case, for example, the significant difference between the two is the one can go 3 inches higher than the other. There's arguably some other nuances that are different, but based on the fact that Omer is the lesser price of the two, and based upon our experience with Omer products over the past 20 years, we're comfortable recommending the Omer lift for the heavy duty, for the heavy vehicle and equipment lift. Conversely, or similarly, the small vehicle and equipment lift, both companies bid out a similar lift manufactured by the same manufacturer. The difference between the two is the more expensive one, built, probably a more heavy-duty fashion, heavier base plates, heavier posts, heavier gussets on the welds, and a significant difference is in the arms that you position under the vehicles. Those arms on that lift are designed more for, let's say, an automotive repair company that is going to provide service to the broad spectrum of vehicles in order to be able to fit any vehicle that comes in. Whereas the lesser expensive one is designed more for a mechanic shop that is going to maybe use it once or twice a week, which is really where we're at. We do not have, even if we owned all the pickup trucks that we have, those pickup trucks are not not being serviced several times a day, all week long, where we need to justify going heavier duty. And then the arms on there will meet our needs. There's both of them actually came with some adapters to fit various frame configurations, but in the end, for the $10,000 difference, after consulting with the vendors and our mechanic, we're comfortable recommending the lesser expensive of the two. The air compressor, already explained why we didn't go with a screw drive. We're still staying with the piston drive, but they can be very loud. The design of the building has the room that the compressor will be placed in close proximity. It's actually going to end up being closer to the water department garage and offices than the front offices. However, experience has demonstrated to me that vibration and just humming will make its way through there. So we did some research, and the lesser expensive one actually has a muffler system of sorts on there. And we are told by the vendor that we can have this conversation while that thing is running and not have to shout at each other. So that's why we're recommending that one, because it'll meet our needs and minimize noise. And then the hot pressure washer, I'm not very knowledgeable about them. However, what I do know is that we need to throw a lot of water because we do plan to have an undercarriage wash system in the wash bay. And we'll need to be able to throw a volume of water at those when we're cleaning the vehicle. So that's why we went with an 8 gallon per minute and a higher pressure. And actually the lesser expensive one, if I remember right, provides a higher pressure than the more expensive one. And warranties are fairly comparable. So I was comfortable recommending the lesser expensive on that, just based on that analysis.
Any questions for Alan?
These costs were already like projected in our initial bid, right? This isn't above and beyond our...
No, it's a component of equipment, which we have an allowance in the overall budget for, and all we're doing is authorizing the purchase and locking these
Right.
in. Some of them take a long time. We don't expect delivery till
Right.
a long time from now, so we're just getting permission to do this so our building can, and then...
You planned for
Yeah,
it.
and then, ultimately, yeah, if the building, if you don't award the bid, we don't buy the stuff.
Right.
For the building.
Do we need 4 separate motions, or can one write them all together?
One can suffice.
I'll make a motion that we buy the equipment that's you've shown that you want, and at the prices that you thought were fair. And I think that's where we're at, right?
Thank you.
And just for the record, those equipment are the Omar KAR 350 vertical raised pantograph lift, the Challenger VLE 10 two-post lift, the Emax 450 air compressor, and the Easy Clean hot water pressure washer.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Steve, seconded by John. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving this for sending out for purchase order, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
For your work. So our next item is park lease agreement between the city and American Legion.
Yep, so the Parks and Rec Committee met earlier this month or last month and formally recommended the approval of the park use agreement with the American Legion. This relates to their use of both Murray and Barlow Park baseball and softball facilities. This agreement mirrors the agreements that were done a couple of years ago with the Ripon Diamond Boosters and the Ripon Youth Baseball and Softball organizations. It just kind of establishes maintenance responsibilities, and it has been approved by the American Legion and is now made its way all the way to the Common Council for consideration.
Do I need to abstain from this one with my affiliation?
You can, yes.
Is it recommended that I do?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Any discussion or motions? Ellen?
I move that we execute the City of Ripon and Ripon American Legion agreement for park use.
I'll second it.
Been moved by Ellen, seconded by Jolene. Any discussion? Jolene?
I will just add that I know that this brings in a lot of visitors to our area, and so it's wonderful that the city can continue to have a strong relationship, a good relationship with the American Legion and using the baseball fields. I don't want to, open something up that is not an issue. I could see it being an issue, that the American Legion is responsible for the following maintenance, and not really saying what the level of maintenance might be expected. I can see that being potentially an issue, but that's why we have a good working relationship. And so I think that as long as a good working relationship is maintained, obviously there's probably mutual agreements on that. But my point is, it's so vague that I could see different parties disagreeing and not having a strong relationship because of that. But seems to be working well.
There are multiple groups using it. Really it comes down to, kind of leave it like you found it and work together as well in scheduling and, ensuring there's not duplicating of certain things. So it's working better. We've had meetings with the American Legion to talk over this. We've had meetings with, in Ashton's report as well, from Parks and Rec, we had a meeting with other organizations that have agreements in the school district to talk about these issues. Those are meetings that we have not traditionally held ever. So it's bringing forward issues, and then generally speaking, if there's an issue that's brought to us based on the agreement or it's just maintenance things, our Parks and Rec department is there to address it generally very quickly compared to the past. So things are going better, but we have a long way to go. This is just another step.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the park use agreement between American Legion and the City of Ripon, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Thank you. Approved. All right. Next item is a resolution amending certain park use fees. This is for the Senior Activity Center, going from a flat $250 per day for rental to a $75 per hour with a maximum charge of $250 per day. This just gives a little more option for short-term uses, for example, a birthday party or something. Go ahead.
Is there a difference if if a nonprofit rents out a city facility versus a nonprofit?
Yeah, there's a reduction of generally 50%. I don't know if that necessarily applies to this facility because of the nature of the cost and some of the other elements of using it, but generally speaking, without an independent agreement like you just passed, it's in the city's fee schedule. So generally speaking, I believe there's a thing in a note in the fee schedule regarding a 50% reduction, so we just have to review that.
So to be clear, that does apply to this, or it may not? It's unclear if it applies to this. Or it can be brought forward for future conversation, is that what we're saying?
Let me just look at the fee schedule.
I guess the point is, we would decide that now. We could propose
The
it.
nonprofit rental charge is 50% of the fee. So they would receive a 50% reduction of the fee under the current approved fee structure.
So even though it doesn't state that, because we have the.
It's in the,
Right.
this is just one portion.
Yes.
Underneath this, there is a larger fee structure with it noted that there's a 50% reduction. That was brought forward last year.
Would anyone like to make a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution amending certain park user fees.
Second.
Been moved by Doug, seconded by Jonathan. Further discussion? Questions?
The reason I asked about there's a lot of nonprofits in the community that I think add good to the community, and so I'm grateful that is something that the city stands by.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved. All right. Next item is a borrowing resolution with TID 14 water tower project funding. Adam?
In your package is a borrowing resolution. So the city has been reviewing our options for funding the reconditioning of the water tower. That project is proceeding and moving forward starting tomorrow. They will be mobilizing on site and will be going for about 3 months, at hopefully the most. So by July, that will hopefully be a completed project. The funding of the project, we went and solicited bids from local banking institutions to take out a small note to help fund a portion of the project. That was sent out. The low submitted bid came from Fortify Bank for 5.92%. There were also bids submitted by 2 or 3 other local banks at higher rates. The mechanism for funding this project will be TIF funding. TID 14 is located within a half mile and has the increment capacity to cover the debt payments in this project. So while this is general obligation debt, it is being covered by payments over the next 5 years by the TID. The TID also has some excess increment cash to cover some of the project costs to begin with. So that's why the total project, as you remember, was north of $600,000. There's only $415,000 being borrowed. So there is a use of existing TIF funds to fund part of this. Other opportunities for funding we explored were the Clean Water Fund or Safe Drinking Water Fund through the state of Wisconsin. Ultimately, the terms of those loans are not as attractive, and the use of the TIF fund versus water utility revenues or other revenue pledges is preferred. We have the capacity there. So this loan, you can see the payments as well as just that, in lieu of not having tax increment, we will have sufficient funds from either water or the general fund to cover the cost.
I have a quick question. You had said 4.92%?
Sorry, 5.9.
Okay, all right, because that's what it says in the resolution, and okay, thank you.
So yeah, so you see everything there. Ultimately, this is the best way to fund this project under the current financial situation in the city.
I move that we that we approve the borrowing resolution, utilizing TID 14 water tower funding in the amount of $415,000 as a loan from Fortify Bank with the interest rate of 5.92 over a 5-year period of time.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved by Ellen, seconded by Doug. Questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the borrowing resolution for the TID 14 water tower project funding, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
All right. Project updates and staff reports. Public Works. Anything?
I'll just emphasize that members of the Public Works team are working with Ashton towards a planting effort, I believe is next week. I think there's 39 trees between 3 parks, and Ashton coordinated some volunteers, so we're hoping for good weather, and we're hoping that our planning works out, that we can kick those trees out in a day and a half. So, other than that, we just remain busy.
I would like to thank you and your crew for the hard work on the 2nd and 3rd for cleaning the slush storm.
I will relay that, and they appreciate the acknowledgement. Thank you very much.
And thank you for fixing the potholes.
Very good.
No, appreciate it. I heard a lot about that.
Do you want to say anything more about, again, thanks to your team, in addition to everything else, also with that recent storm picking up branches? I know that the city had, now everyone had to submit it by noon yesterday, I believe, the request for branches, correct?
Correct, and by noon yesterday, we had 72, 73 on the list, and then some stragglers came in that afternoon. They did get added to the list, and then we've received a few today. We did not complete it today, so the few that we got today are being snuck onto the list for tomorrow.
Thanks for doing that.
Thank you, Alan. Anything, PD? Amy?
The election went well. We had over 1,000 voters, and we had about a little over 300 in absentee. So strongly encourage though the public to get out and vote, because our population, we had 25% of our population that voted, so that's extremely low for our community.
And the next election date?
Is August 12th, I think?
13th.
13th?
Thanks, Roger.
Just go through.
Sorry, I want to join the lead, help us with the dates.
No, thank you.
The next election will be August 13th, and then after that will be November 5th.
And that was extremely low for this comparing this election to the last one at this time. The spring election, you mean? This was, when we look at other spring elections, this was quite low. And that was a day of the storm. So thanks to your volunteers that stayed.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
A thank you to the volunteers if you can relate from the city.
Definitely can, yes.
Thank you. Adam?
So I had a lot of updates in my report, so let's kind of go over them a little bit more. So Selfridge Park project, we had a meeting with our engineers, Alan and then Alliant Energy and some of their engineers. That is a site that needs some work on behalf of Alliant for some of the ongoing contamination issues there. So we're working through that project. It may delay that project into the summer or into next year, just based on the fact that there are some soils that need to be removed. So as we were working through that project, thankfully our contacts with Alliant and whatnot came through, and we didn't start doing something without knowing, and so we're just putting a little bit of a break on it while we plan some things out. So while we're excited to keep that going, You know, obviously, one part of the DNR doesn't talk to the other part of the DNR, and here we are with the delay. We continue to plan
Can I
out.
ask,
Yes.
because I have people, since it's my district, will say when they hear there's contamination, they want to say, but is it safe? And as far as we know, I mean, obviously, children can play, they can play on the grass. I mean, we're not, what we're saying is, they can be assured with the city, if we knew that something wasn't safe, we would clearly close it down. And so we're saying that, although there's, when people get nervous that there's contamination, they say, what does that mean? And that it's a park that people can feel safe going to, is what we're saying.
The park is safe.
Yes.
It is
I just
going
wanted
to
to
be safer with the work that Alliant is undergoing in coordination with our project to eliminate soils that continue to be capped, but ultimately a contamination source that the DNR wants them to address. So they will be addressing that, and then everything will be capped and refilled. And essentially, there are ongoing obligations. There are things that, like tarps and other measures that have been put in place over time, over the last decade or so. But ultimately, the goal of Alliant Energy in the DNR is to move that site to closure. And working with them to do that through this project is what is occurring. It's not the city's obligation, because the city is not the responsible party. We are merely the owner of the property, because it can only be a park based on some of those continuing obligations. So Alliant Energy is the responsible party taking care of those issues.
My point being, when I have families ask, it is our obligation, if we knew something wasn't safe for, again, children to be laying on the ground, we would state this. And we do not know of something being unsafe for children to play at this park, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're addressing it further with Alliant, with the DNR involved. The St. Wenceslas project continues to be out to bid. There's a bid date in a couple weeks. We continue to work with the school district and meet with them to ensure that their, any plans they have are met in the project, as well as talking with Alliant to try to make sure that they can utilize the open street. Tiger Street Bridge project, obviously, that has been delayed. We literally, after working with the DNR for over a year, got a permit yesterday night, and we continue to have another permit that they are delaying on. So Egbert has been there, they will be back, but there will be another about 30-day delay because we have to go through a window of public comment period to reestablish the bank that we just ripped out with the bridge coming up. So that has been a slow-moving project, but DNR continues to issue permits and get through that with us. And Egbert continues to wait patiently. The water tower reconditioning, I told you, will start in the next couple days here. Just mark the calendars, I sent it out, but reorganization meeting will happen a week from tonight. So please mark your calendars, and then the new council will be seated at that meeting. And then finally, I did announce that we have hired our communications HR person, her position. So Mary Beschley has accepted the role. She comes to us with over 15 years of HR and communications experience in the private sector. So we are excited to bring her on board in the next couple weeks here. May 1st or so is when we're targeting. So happy to answer any other questions.
Questions for Adam? Move on. Thank you, Adam. All right. Next is I have a couple of appointments for our newly established Community Development Authority. Taking one at a time. First one would be, these are both for the resident portion of the board. First one is Jeff Litticoat. This would be for a term ending in 2026.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
He's been a long time member of committees for the city, and I appreciate his service. I think he'd be great.
And just for the record, the motion was made by John, and seconded by Steve. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of appointing Jeff Liticote to the CDA, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved. Next is Kimberly Chapman Johnson. This would be for a term ending in 2027.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
A motion by Terry, seconded by Doug. Any discussion?
That's the name, I don't know. What's her background?
So Kimberly is a newer resident of Ripon over the past couple of years. She moved back to this area for family. She, I believe, owns a couple business or buildings downtown. I believe she bought the one next to the old RCC church. She has, she came from California. She served on their transient occupancy tax board since 1971. Has worked in their local government there, volunteering in downtown and other street fair events for 20 plus years, and has a significant background in community and economic development from her time in California. So we put a call out to individuals. I think she actually called Alan about something completely different. And
During the rollout of the recycling carts.
And he started talking to her, and she started talking about her experience, and he said you might want to call her. And we chatted, and I forwarded the letter to the mayor, and her experience is relative and lengthy.
Any further questions or discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor of appointing Kimberly Chapman Johnson to the CDA, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved. Thank you very much. All I have for the evening. Future agenda items or comments from council. Gary?
First of all, this is my last meeting, and I want to thank everybody in the council for your time and efforts. Mayor, thank you for helping me. Adam, thank you for training me earlier. All the department heads that I met with and learned about the city, thank you for your time. I want to thank City District 2 especially, the one I served for about the last year. It was great working with the city, learning the different parts, working with that whole water main break at Griswold that was caused by a truck that actually took over the fire hydrant, and learning that they had ran through stop signs in the past, so maybe we needed to start restricting. It was great to actually be able to interface with the community. I want to thank all the constituents for your support. Thank you very much.
Terry.
Thank you for your service.
Anyone else? In that case, I would seek a motion to adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin Statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, or where competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session. This would be to discuss a development agreement for Parkside Street, utility extension, and housing development, as well as approving minutes from the December 12th, 2023 meeting.
I move what you said.
I'll second what you said.
I have a motion by Ellen, second by Terry. All those in favor of adjourn closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You get 5.
Yeah, we'll adjourn at 8:08. We'll come back in 7 minutes. Start at 8:50.
Oh, thank you. Welcome.